Every evening I take my dog for a walk through some quiet fields. Not many people know about them, and I've never bumped into anyone here. That's why I like walking them, as I get some peace. And also because my dog loves to run free. It was late, which meant it was getting dark. There wasn't much daylight left. We headed for our walk, and not long after we entered the fields, it was strange, as I felt like someone was watching me. I looked around, and there was no one in sight. All that was around me was bushes, trees, and a mile worth of grass. We carried on walking, and the bushes started to rustle. I was certain someone was near. In the distance stood a figure. I couldn't make out what I was looking at, but it was coming closer to me. My dog had also noticed it and froze, which he never does. He is brave and normally runs up to the things he's intrigued of. My dog had started to run off in a different direction. I recalled my dog and ran out of the fields. As I was just leaving, I looked back and saw the straying figure crouch down, as if it was turning into some sort of animal. I never looked back and never entered those fields again. It was a Saturday afternoon. Me and a group of friends decided to take a hike up a forbidden trail. We all like to explore and try to go on a group hike once a month. A bit of backstory to this trail is that there have been a few stories told about many people entering and never returning, and their bodies also never found. It claimed to be cursed. We all decided to explore and see if we could find anything peculiar. We arrived at the place. It was a little cold and windy. Before the trail began, there was a sign which said, "Enter at your own risk. If you become lost or in danger, no one can help." I thought to myself this wasn't a good idea anyway. We decided to continue. The walk started off fine, nothing creepy or out of the ordinary, until it all happened so quick. We were approaching the halfway point and something from the distance shouted, "You should have listened to the sign." The noise of a stick breaking made me look to my right, and I wish I never did. I saw a tall, human-like figure, but it wasn't human. It had long gray hair, mature skin, eyes drooping, and claws for hands. We ran as fast as our legs could take us. Trembling over the tree trunks, my friend had fallen next to me. I went to help her, and the creepy figure grabbed her by her injured ankles and pulled her along the hard stone ground and into the bushes. She screamed. The rest of my friends were pulling me away to help me. We couldn't turn back. She was gone. We managed to make it out of the forest, and I will forever be haunted by that moment. I wish every day that I never entered that trail. I've been a photographer now for 5 years, and I specialize in scenic photography. I love nature and the beauty of it. My sister had recommended 3 areas that we have never been to take some photos. She thought we would like them and have a good time. The key word being, she thought. We headed off en route to our first destination, which was in a mountain range with a small waterfall. It was empty and no one was in sight for miles. I started taking lots of photos and asked if my sister would like to take some together. I attached my camera to my tripod and put it on a timer setting. This way, we could stand back together and have a nice view behind us. My camera had weirdly taken 20 photos of us. We had been there for an hour, and we decided to head to our next location. This location was a little different because it was a stunning, big, open lake. Again, we took some photos of the view and some photos together. I strangely noticed my camera had done the same thing when I had put it on the tripod to take photos of me and my sister. It had taken 20 photos again. We didn't want to waste time, so we had agreed to take a bunch of photos and view them when we got home. Something was telling me to view them now. We are still at the second destination, and I pulled up the photos from the first location. The photos had turned out amazing, I thought, until I got to photo 6 and my eyes opened widely. Behind me and my sister next to the waterfall was a weird creature. All I can describe it as is an evil-looking mermaid. But in the next photos, it was gone. I hadn't told my sister yet, as I was investigating and knew she would panic. I pulled up the next set of photos which we had not long taken, and I was in complete silence. I froze in fear. In one of the photos, there was a tall, human-like figure. It looked like it was half animal, wearing the fur of a wolf. The only thing that I could think was happening was that we were being followed by a skinwalker. Now, for those of you who don't know what a skinwalker is, it's when individuals can transform into animals. They can cause harm to others. I was certain a skinwalker was following us. I grabbed my equipment and my sister and ran to my car. I explained to my sister what was happening. She was also in shock. As I was speeding home, she was on the camera and had found the photos. Her breathing was heavy. I calmed her down. We got back home and ran to our parents, and when we tried showing them the photos, there was no longer anything in the background. I question myself to this day, was I imagining it? No, I couldn't have. My sister saw it too. Or were we both just losing our minds? I always find myself stuck with 100 questions, and to this day, I remain with no answers. Going back a couple of years ago, it was a Friday afternoon. My parents were going to spend the evening out with their friends for a celebration. This was the first time I'd stayed home alone. I was only 12, but they trusted me and knew I could take care of myself. My mother had insisted I stayed with my auntie, but I wanted to stay home alone as I'd never done it before. I was excited but also nervous because of how remote our house is. We lived in the countryside, and there was not many houses near ours, only a tiny village which is 20 minutes away. The evening started great. I made a delicious chicken sandwich with some salad. I then played some games and listened to my music, louder than I usually would. An hour passed and I got bored of my music. I decided it's time to watch a movie. Of course, I was going to take advantage that my parents weren't home and watch a horror. Definitely wasn't a good idea looking back on it. Now I'm going to explain a little backstory about the house. My father thinks the house may be haunted. As he had said in the past, he has seen some strange figures appear in mirrors and doors. I never believed him, and always thought he would make them up to scare me. That was until I had my encounter. Going back to the main story. I was watching the movie, and it wasn't really scary to me. It was a paranormal. They are my favorite. I decided to get some more snacks, as I had eaten them all. I filled up my bowl with some nachos and sweets and headed back to the sofa. We have a big sofa which behind it is a large double window. I try to avoid looking out of the windows at night times due to our remote area and large garden. I always worried I might see something scary. Unfortunately, as I went to sit down, my eyes locked onto something from outside the window. It looked to me like a tall man standing next to our tree, wearing a cutout dog mask. I squeezed my eyes shut, and when I had opened them, it was gone. I looked back out the window and scanned my eyes around the empty garden. There was nothing. I decided to sit down for a minute as I was scared. I thought to myself maybe it was my mind playing tricks on me. I decided to carry on watching the movie as there were only 25 minutes left. I must have nodded off because I remember waking up to the sound of the TV turning off. This didn't alarm me in any way, as when the TV has been left on for a long period, it shuts itself off. I checked the clock on the wall, and it was 10:10 at night. My mother said they would be home at 11:30. I decided to shut my eyes and go back to sleep, and when I did, I heard the floorboards creak. I got up slowly and looked around. There was nothing. I took myself back to the sofa, and just as I was about to sit back down, I looked at the dark TV, and the same tall man with the mask appeared to be behind me. My stomach dropped. I couldn't take it whether my mind was playing tricks on me or not. I couldn't take the chances. I ran so fast upstairs, tripping up on one of the steps. Now that didn't stop me. I instantly got back up and locked myself in my bedroom wardrobe. Thankfully, my phone was in my pocket. I pulled it out and called the police. I told them that there was someone in my house, a strange man. I couldn't stay on the phone. As soon as I knew help was on the way, I called my mother. 25 minutes had passed, and I heard sirens. I didn't get out of that wardrobe until I knew I was safe. A police officer shouted that it was safe. I still felt petrified. I heard footsteps, and a police officer had opened the door. I now knew I was safe. They said the house was clear and there was no sign of a break-in. I spoke to the officer and explained everything. They said they would search the area and try to find out what happened. My mother and father ran through the house door and shouted for me. I ran downstairs, jumping into both their arms. I had explained everything in full detail. My father was in shock, and what he said next frightened me. I never said exactly what I saw in the past, as I never thought it was real. But tonight what you saw was exactly what I saw, he said in fear. A couple of days passed and my mother and father no longer felt safe here. They decided we should move, somewhere closer to a town with houses nearby. Nothing has happened since that night. The police stopped their investigation, and we still have no explanation as to what happened, and I don't think we ever will.